A great deal of pleasure to tell you that I'm Bobby Spiegel. I'm the president and CEO for the Corona Chamber. And chairing today's event is a gentleman that I've kind of grown up with here in Corona. He served on the city council. Part of that, he was a parks commissioner. And then he served as city council member, served as the mayor a couple of times. I think it was 3 times. And then he moved on to the state and became a state assembly member. And what I love about this guy is that he knows how to work on both sides of the aisle. He knows how to talk common sense. He's one of the rare people that have been elected that actually knows how to sign both sides of a check. He owned his own business. He still owns his own business. It's a thriving insurance business. He's not going to put a plug in, but I will. We put his kid through college because we get our insurance through his Farmers Insurance Agency. But please welcome the Honorable Jeff Miller.
Thank you, Bobby. Very, very kind, and thank you for your business. I appreciate it. You're one of my favorite customers. Now every other month, and today's meeting is sponsored by Waste Management. Is Lily here? No, not yet. Well, we will. We'll let her say a few words when she gets here. And then in June, we have our auditor controller for Riverside County, Ben Benoit, who served as mayor of Wildemar and has a tremendous knowledge and is going to share with us how he deals with issues of transparency and accountability at the county level, managing the budgets and all that. So with that, enough of me. I'm going to hand the mic off, and who's first?
Introductions. There you go. Yeah, just stand up and say whatever.
Hi, I'm Greg Huber, and I'm with Sandler Telecommunication Services.
Good afternoon, Eugene Montanez, representing Montanez U Injury Lawyers and retired from everything else.
Glenn Fletcher, Pete's Road Service, semi-retired.
Hello everyone, Jet Benavidez representing Congressman Ken Calvert.
It's always fun going after Jet. My name is Casey Deaver, and I'm here on behalf of Assemblyman Bill Asali's office.
Hello, my name is Valerie. I'm from Assemblyman Bill Asali's office.
Hi, I'm Don Luna, and I'm representing Vulcan Materials.
Hi, I'm Carla Villalobos, and I'm representing Vulcan Materials too.
Sandy Klein, Realtor with Remax Partners.
Good morning. I'm Linda Pearson with Corona Regional Medical Center.
Again, I'm Yolanda Carrillo, and I'm retired, and I'm a professional cruiser.
My name's Ed Carrillo, and I retired from my paint job in January of 2021. For the last 3 years, I've been working for free for this beautiful woman here.
Smart man. Cisco Perez with Luna Modern Mexican Kitchen.
Natalie Verdugo, representing Shuttles for Soldiers, Transportation for Veterans, and Helping Hands Medical Transportation.
Chelsea Almeida, also with Shuttles for Soldiers and Helping Hands Medical Transportation.
Jennifer Steigner or Smith, depending on
Depending what name you want to go by.
Yeah, with Laminated Shim and Shim and Manufacturing. We're an aerospace manufacturer here.
My name is Suzanne Pantoja. I'm an HR consultant with Integrated HR Consulting. Hello, Kim Maybon with Creative by Design.
I'm Monica Fialos with Fialos Insurance Solutions, offering medical insurance and specializing on Medicare services.
Kenneth Jacobs, I'm retired from the United States Coast Guard, and I represent Congregation Beth Shalom.
Marta Cortez with the Eduardo's Mexican Restaurant and also Chamber Board member.
Kobe Ice, campaign manager for the guy going next.
Hey everybody, Will Rollins. I'm a candidate for Congress in this district. Spent my career in counterterrorism, but thrilled to be here today because my grandparents, who were lifelong Republicans, by the way, small business owners. So looking forward to learning more from the chamber, and look forward to hopefully spending some time with each of you individually. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Kaylee Coleman, Communications and Marketing for the Corona Chamber.
Dan Zabalak with Doing American Manufacturing.
Joseph Como here for visiting home in place of Diana because she couldn't make it today.
Saul Shapiro, Living Better 101, Credit and Debt Education.
Leticia Castillo, candidate for Assembly District 58.
That was my cue. Luis Satina with the Metropolitan Water District.
Wayne Brown with the Transportation Corridor Agencies, or better known, the toll roads.
Hello, my name is Ariel Alcon-Tapia. I'm with the Riverside County Transportation Commission.
I'm Jim Dorsey, town photographer. I'm not retired. Just tuned up a bit.
Nathan Yanez with Visionary Media.
Aaron Hake, RCTC. Anthony Maldonado, Programs Coordinator of the Corona Chamber and Board Member with Corona Norco United Way.
Reyes Marsona, owner of Signorama Corona.
Hello everyone, I'm Lena Cardenas, Field Representative from the Office of Assembly Member.
Robert Yanez, Membership Development Coordinator, Corona Chamber.
Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Desiree Ramirez. I'm the Vice President of Operations and Membership Development at the Corona Chamber.
Anthony. Thank you, everybody. Want to especially thank all the candidates that are here and the field reps from the individual offices. We appreciate that. Oh, I get to introduce Aaron. Hi, Aaron. Do you want to share how we met?
Yeah.
I'll introduce you, and then I got a couple other questions I'm going to ask to get them to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? Aaron began his career at RCTC in 2006. He successfully working on transportation policy and project funding advocacy, including transportation improvements on State Route 91 and Interstate 15. In 2016, he was promoted to Director of External Affairs, where he spearheaded the development of the Commission-adopted Traffic Relief Plan, a strategy to fund a backlog of transportation improvements and to plan for Riverside County's future transportation and mobility needs. In 2021, Aaron was promoted to interim RCA Deputy Executive Director, when RCTC became the managing agency of the RCA. In 2022, Hake became RCTC's Deputy Executive Director, overseeing RCTC's multimodal express lane operations, finance, external affairs, administrative services departments, and the RCA. Aaron has been a long civic leader in Riverside County, serving as chair of the Riverside County Planning Commission, chair of the City of Corona Planning Commission. He served as treasurer of the City of Corona. He's served as board chair of the Inland Southern California United Way, and served on numerous other local nonprofits boards of directors. He was honored with the 2022 Women in Transportation Inland Empire Chapter Secretary Ray LaHood Award, recognizing his career-long commitment to advancing women in the transportation profession. He earned his bachelor's degree in political science and philosophy from the American University in Washington, D.C., and has a master's degree in public administration from the University of Southern California, and he is a resident of Norco. And could only eat one food, what would that be?
Can I make a smoothie?
A smoothie?
Yeah. With the fruit on the island?
If that's your go-to?
Yeah.
And if you could only listen to one band, one music?
Elton John.
Elton John, okay. Okay, good. All right, so do you want to share how we met?
Yeah.
So before he does that, I'm sure the theme is going to be Beyond the Yellow Brick Road.
Yes. Yes.
We don't do yellow brick roads at RCTC, we do asphalt. Sorry, I had to.
It's okay.
So you're hearing, Eugene, there's so many people here. Part of my origin story, Jeff read a lot of it, but when I was in high school, I was trying to raise money for my first ever trip to Washington, D.C. It was one of those school programs where you got to go to D.C. and they encouraged you to write to your local elected officials to ask them to pitch in for the costs for your family, because it's a lot of money for a plane ticket to spend a week there with your kids. And so I did. I wrote letters to the city council, to my congressman, to everybody. I didn't get a reply except from this man right here. He sent a contribution. He had his insurance, card. It was on his business letterhead. But that's how I met. And so when I got hired at RCTC, after I graduated college and I started coming to city council meetings because I wanted to get involved, I went up to him and I said, I don't know if you remember this, but you sent me a check for me to go to Washington, D.C. for the first time. And so that trip, it opened my eyes to what civic involvement is, to what participation in our democracy is. And, as a young kid, it made a huge impression on me. And so I am here, thanks to a lot of people in this room that I'm looking at all of you, but you're one of them. So thank you, Jeff.
And I still have that letter.
You do?
I do.
So, and that just goes to show, public service by an elected official is, I've observed, I work with a lot of them, and it's thankless. It really is. It may look like it's a lot of glory, it may look like it's a lot of attention and wonderful things, but there are so many things that, and there's people in this room who have done it and are doing it, that don't get recognized. And just little acts like that of service that doesn't make the newspaper, it doesn't make social media, but it means all the world to someone who lives in a community and wants to be part of it. And that's when I moved back here and wanted to serve here for my career, it made a big difference knowing that people like Yolanda, Eugene, Jeff, Karen were here and they were invested in the community and made me want to stay here. So thanks for that story. So.
So I just want you all to know that 45 minutes ago we got a phone call that said that Aaron was not going to be able to be here. He was in a very long meeting, but the commitment that this guy has to this chamber and to all of you, he got done with that meeting. I don't think he had lunch yet, but he says, I'm coming and I'm going to be there. Please welcome Aaron Hake.
Thanks. So what we were doing today, that very long meeting, was a commission meeting. So I represent the Riverside County Transportation Commission. We are a commission of elected officials from throughout the county. So from Blythe to Corona, all of the county supervisors, every city has a vote. Jeff was a commissioner at one time for several years. They were meeting today. They had their monthly meeting in Riverside today. There were two important things going on at the commission meeting today. The first is that it was Ann Mayer's final meeting as executive director. And for those of you who had the honor and privilege to work with Ann Mayer, you'll know what a special person she is, but you actually all know what a special person she is because you drive on the roads. There is not a road in Corona or in Riverside County that she has not impacted. She started her career at Caltrans 41 years ago. And was a construction manager, the construction deputy. She worked her way up through the ranks of Caltrans. She's one of the few women to ever lead a Caltrans district. She led the largest district in California for Caltrans and was the first woman to do so. She's the first female executive director of RCTC. She's been there for over 15 years. She is responsible for shepherding through the 91 improvement project, the 15 improvement project. Almost every major interchange in this county, she has had a hand in delivering. So I need to start this by saying thank you to Ann, even though she's not here, but she's been a great partner to the chamber as well, and has made a huge difference. So there were a lot of tributes to Ann this morning at her final commission meeting, and then the commission got on to the business of adopting the traffic relief plan. So that was mentioned in Jeff's opening here. But what the commission has been earnestly engaged in since 2019 is developing the long-range countywide transportation vision that we need to move forward. We are the beneficiaries of the leaders of this county back in the early 2000s putting together Measure A, which is the half-cent sales tax that the voters approved and goes to transportation improvements here. That program has been very successful. The city of Corona has benefited greatly from those infrastructure improvements in Measure A, but it's time to look forward. Measure A has addressed the needs that we had and that we anticipated. Candidly, it wasn't enough. We needed more. The traffic relief plan that the commission adopted today, overwhelmingly adopted today, represents the next 30-year vision for transportation in the future. Now, what's in that plan for Corona? That's kind of what I want to talk about today. So we're proposing additional projects in the city of Corona, in addition to the city receiving an annual allocation of local street and road money, and that's to maintain the roads that you drive on here locally in the city every day. Funding for bike lanes and pedestrian facilities. The big projects in this area, we're proposing to construct another eastbound lane on the 91 between the 241 and the 71, so that if you're taking the 241 and you're coming northbound to come home in the evening, the lane will just continue all the way to the 71. You don't have to merge onto the main line. We're proposing that. We're proposing auxiliary lanes on I-15. So you know that the I-15 is the new 91, right? Okay. So what happens there on the 15 is as traffic is merging on, whether it's from the 91 or from Magnolia or from Ontario, those lanes don't continue on. That lane just basically dead ends. It's not the correct engineering term, but you have to get onto the main line. And that slows everybody down. So auxiliary lanes are lanes that are intended to go interchange to interchange. So if you get on southbound at Magnolia, you can just stay in your lane and get off at Ontario. So you don't have to merge. Same thing going in the other direction. So what we're proposing in the traffic relief plan is a series of auxiliary lanes between interchanges to smooth that traffic out. You'd be surprised how much traffic is generated just from people within the city of Corona traveling within the city of Corona. A lot of the congestion you get on the 15 are people that are not making a long haul trip. They're people within the community trying to get around. And so those auxiliary lanes we think will do a lot to alleviate congestion on the 15. With the advocacy of Commissioner Wes Speak, who's your commissioner from the city of Corona, we included a project in there to explore mass transit options on the 15. It's going to be expensive, but we want to look at, is there something other than automobile transportation that would work on the 15? So he advocated for that. That's included. Also in the plan is a project to add additional lanes on the 91 east of the 15. So the big 91 project we had a few years ago went from the county line basically to I-15, a little bit east of that to McKinley. Our vision is to keep going all the way to Pierce Street because it's still bottlenecks there in the eastbound direction in the evening. So our ultimate plan is to go to Pierce Street and Riverside. We also included in the plan outside the city to the east here. Have you ever noticed if you're driving on the 91 in Riverside, you're coming back to Corona, westbound, you go around that curve around La Sierra and Magnolia just for like no reason, it just stops. Okay? So again, there's a need for auxiliary lanes there because the people getting on, one, it's the curve, it's the geometry of the freeway, human behavior is to slow down. But you'll notice if you get on at Magnolia, that lane again, it just dead ends into the freeway. So, working with the city of Riverside, we plan to do auxiliary lanes on the 91 there to help that commute into the city. The city of Corona has advocated for more funding for local streets and roads. We support that. All the surrounding cities have as well. Your neighboring cities, Norco has a project in the plan to improve the 6th Street interchange, which is getting increasingly impacted because Silver Lakes is so successfal. It's a huge regional draw, it's an economic engine, and that's the only interchange that really serves that facility, so we know there's work that needs to be done at 6th Street. In Eastvale, we put improvements in for the Cantu Galliano interchange that gets congested with all of the logistics activity that's going on there. So those are just some of the highlights of what was adopted in the plan as far as specific projects. But really, what I want to convey here is that We know that the traffic is bad, and we know it's getting worse. The fact of the matter is, whether we do anything or not at RCTC, this county will add the equivalent of 2 cities of Moreno Valley in population by 2050. We will get another 500,000 people in this county. And if we don't do something to the transportation system, the bad is going to get worse and worse and worse. And I am the messenger on this, don't you? Our state and federal partners, as much as we love them and as much as they contribute what they do, they are not going to solve our problem. If we are going to solve our transportation problem, we are going to have to do it ourselves. That's why we are a self-help county. That's why Measure A was approved by the local voters. RCTC exists because back in the first Jerry Brown administration, he divested Caltrans of doing highway improvements. And so the locals took it upon themselves to say, no, we need to keep going. So we're gonna have to keep doing that. We will compete for those state and federal dollars, whatever is available, but we're competing against the biggest cities in the country, in the state. We do get our fair share. I will say we do a really good job of getting that money. But if you want to say, hey, that project on the 15 is going to get done, that project's on the 91 is going to get done, I don't want to have to rely on somebody else, on their timing when they have the budget. The fact of the matter is, if we wait, it costs more. We have to redo the environmental document. We have to adjust the design changes. So if we want to have certainty about our own future, we're going to have to do it ourselves. Which is why, in addition to adopting the traffic relief plan today, the commission voted to direct staff, that's me, to prepare a ballot measure for this November. A ballot measure that would fund the traffic relief plan in the form of a sales tax, a county-wide sales tax, 1%. RCTC does administer Measure A, which is the half-cent sales tax. We have the ability to do another 1%. If that is approved, it would go to the voters, all of you, this November, for those specific named projects in the traffic relief plan. So when you get your ballot guide, you would read the little summary, and then there would be the full expenditure plan of what we would be allowed to use that money on, what projects. And again, this is a county-wide measure. So it would include rail to the Coachella Valley. It would include rail improvements here in the city of Corona and Riverside. It would include improvements in Temecula. It would include improvements in Hemet and San Jacinto, a regional measure. What I do need to let you know, I don't like coming up to a business group and saying, hey, we're talking about a tax. I know this is a business group. None of the money goes to Sacramento. None of the money goes to Washington. It is all controlled locally by the commission, your local elected officials who are appointed by you. We have to use the money on the projects we say we're going to spend it on. We can use that to match those federal dollars. That's the other piece of this. If the state or federal government have funding programs like the big bipartisan infrastructure bill that occurred, they are not going to give us money if we haven't put our own money up first. And if we don't have money to put up, we're not getting any. So we need those matching funds locally. 99% of the funds by law have to go into projects and programs. So this is not funding overhead. Only 1% of the revenues from a RCTC measure are allowed to be used on administrative salaries and benefits. So you know that the money goes back into the projects. We do everything in public, it's transparent. You can go drive down to Riverside at a meeting, or you can just call me. But there's local accountability to these things. So that's what we're exploring. We've done a lot of public outreach, we've done public opinion polling, we've done meetings in the community. We will continue to do that throughout the summer as the commission decides whether or not they're going to put this on the ballot. Based on the vote today, I can't speak for my commissioners. I think we're headed in that direction. And so I'm very appreciative of the public outreach or the public input we've received. We received input from the city here. We received input from the residents here that shaped the plan. I'm gonna stop there. I'd really like to take questions with whatever time that we have. Transportation's on everybody's mind.
Just repeat the question.
Yeah, that's fine. Sounds good. Okay.
Who's got a question? Don't be shy. Jeff?
Aaron,
talk a little bit about the McKinley Bridge. That project is, I mean, it's just amazing. And it's obviously, as you know, it's created some challenges.
Yeah. So there's some things I can say, some things I can't. Mostly, so the question was about McKinley, the grade separation. That is a City of Corona-led project, so I can't speak to details about construction or what's happening on the ground there. They're managing that project, so I can't speak for them. What I can tell you is that RCTC has contributed funds to that project, and we may do so again to make sure that it keeps going, because that project is probably north of $100 million. So these are important things to keep in mind about the cost of things when you hear these big numbers. You hear government agencies talk about big numbers. That bridge alone is over $100 million. And think about this. The rail lines that go through Corona and Riverside and other parts of the county, I think we still have somewhere north of 50 grade crossings. And this is one of the big issues that we've been trying to address since you were on the commission, is when you get these increasing number of freight trains that are coming from the Port of LA and Long Beach and delivering goods to the rest of the country, these communities are bearing the brunt of international commerce right here. And so grade separations like McKinley are so important for our communities from a safety standpoint. That crossing at McKinley had one of the higher accident rates, unfortunately, and fatality rates. So it needed to be done from a safety standpoint. And the gate downtime keeps going up because as the traffic at the ports increases, as we all keep buying from Amazon, great, but the goods come in from somewhere, right? And they end up either on a truck in our backyard or on a train in our backyard. And the more that happens, the longer the trains get, the more the gates are down, and that increases pollution. It increases pollution in those communities, and communities along the railroad tracks tend to be more disadvantaged communities. And so it's a social justice and an equity issue to have these crossings blocked all the time. What we had in the city of Riverside for a number of years, and in this community, were emergency vehicles unable to cross the tracks because there were so many trains. We had video of kids climbing over rail cars trying to get home from school. So freeing up these crossings is vitally important. I know it's painful. We're not managing that project, and it's gone a long time. I think I don't want to speak for when they're going to be done. I know they're trying to get it done. It's impressive to look at, but from a safety standpoint and a pollution standpoint, from a justice standpoint, and from a traffic flow standpoint, it will get. It stinks to be there right now. But yeah, that's what we got to do. Yeah.
Thanks. Next question. Yes, all the way in the back.
I wish you much success because I've driven your freeways many times.
Yeah.
Representing the agency I work for, and it flows really well.
Thank you.
But I want to ask you a two-part question. State of California, $72 billion in debt, and Proposition 1 they already passed, and there really wasn't no organized opposition campaign. Right?
Yeah.
And so, for those of us who don't understand how you work with Californians, who I anticipate will be getting some cuts, right? How will that affect your efforts to realize your goals? And the second part of the question is, we just saw the state about $100 billion in proposed bonds to be on the ballot in November.
Yep. That's a political challenge. Yeah. So sorry, there were two questions. Thank you for reminding me. Two-part question. One was about the state budget deficit and potential cuts to Caltrans. What does that mean for us? And then the second part was about revenue measures that the state is proposing to put on the ballot, particularly bond measures in November, and what kind of situation that could create. So the first part of your question about the budget deficit. It is not good, but transportation revenue is constitutionally protected. It is mostly funded by the gas tax and by vehicle registration fees and vehicle license fees. Article 19 of the California Constitution has been repeatedly upheld by voters in California, creating a firewall saying that those monies cannot be diverted to bail out the general fund deficit. And that was in reaction to that's what was happening, is the gas tax money was being borrowed or just flat out taken to fill the general fund. That can't happen anymore. There are situations where they can get loans from the gas tax money, has to be paid back though. So from a transportation standpoint, we're in much better shape than a lot of other state programs. That being said, believe it or not, this is just Aaron's one little education piece for the day. Gas tax revenue is going down. I know there's an article today about gas prices going up. Electric vehicles and the efficiency of the fleet is decreasing consumption of gasoline. And we pay a per gallon tax. So transportation revenue at the state is actually declining for reasons separate from the state budget. So just something to keep in mind. And that's something that the federal government has to address too, by the way. That the federal gas tax has been 18 cents since the first Bush was president. Hasn't changed. Your question about the state revenue measures, the bonds, I think there's a climate bond being discussed. I don't know the other ones. I don't know what the legislature is going to do. Politically, we can think about that and worry about that at RCTC, but like I said, we're focused on what is our destiny, our own destiny, what is it that we need to do. We'll put the best thing forward to the voters that we can, and it'll be up to the voters to decide. If we waited for a good election cycle when the state wasn't doing other stuff, we'd never do it. So, it's a good question.
Is there a sense of urgency within RCTC because of inflation to design and start projects on an accelerated pace?
Yeah, so the question is does RCTC have urgency to accelerate project delivery because of inflation? The answer is yes. The challenge is that we don't have the funding to accelerate as many projects as we would like. We know that doing a project today will be cheaper than doing it in 10 years when we save up the money. And we're always going to be chasing that inflationary trend. That's why the traffic relief plans, that's the urgency, is the traffic relief plan. That's why we're thinking about a ballot measure. So short answer is yes. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about what the county is getting from the bipartisan infrastructure bill and how that's working?
Yes, so the question's about the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed a few years ago and what the county is getting from that. It's been a struggle. I think it was sold as this big answer to a lot of concerns. Only part of it was for transportation, and all of the programs are competitive, and they are for projects. Honestly, a lot of the money's going to New York for big Hudson River tunnel drilling. A lot of it's going to big mega projects in other parts of the country. We want to be competitive for those funds. We've applied, we've not received grants. I'd be happy to return with more data on what we've applied for, what we've received. The one thing I want to say that is positive about the bipartisan infrastructure law, not a lot of folks know, is it included reauthorization of just the baseline surface transportation law. So every 5 years or so, Congress has to reauthorize the federal transportation law. So it's funding for all of the programs that we continue to receive funding for. So from a positive standpoint, what they did is provide longer term stability, that we know that there is money coming back to this region. But as far as those big grants, we haven't seen it. But we can provide more detail. Thank you. Yes.
So out of curiosity, what is the actual forecasted budget and through what amount of time, if there is anything for these projects that you guys have talked about?
About the traffic relief plan? Yeah. Okay, the question is about what's the budget and the time frame for the traffic relief plan revenue? Okay, so the traffic relief plan, we built it as a 30-year proposal. Measure A was a 30-year plan. So that's the horizon. A 1% sales tax countywide would raise $600 million. And that's in the first year, and then obviously with inflation and growth, that would increase. That's the short answer. Just by comparison, Measure A today, the half cent, brings in about $280 million. And I'll go back to our question about federal funds. There's so much more in the weeds we can talk about on federal funds. We used to get formula money from the federal government. We probably get $45 to $50 million a year from the federal government. So just to put it in perspective, how much that is. Unfortunately, we don't get that formula money anymore. Other questions? Hey, hey.
I was wondering when you were going to raise your hand.
When does your title officially change?
Thank you. So Eugene has asked a question about the elephant in the room that I haven't addressed. So Anna's retiring effective May 1st. I will be the executive director May 2nd, so in a few weeks. So. And I do have to acknowledge that there are people, including Eugene, Yolanda, Jeff, you, who have said, Aaron, you're gonna get that job someday. Aaron, you're gonna get that job someday. When are you gonna get the job, Aaron? When are you gonna get the job? And it was still 10 years away from your retirement. Stop talking about it.
Talk about how one of the ways you got the 91 improvement money.
Thank you. So Eugene has a role, and this is a cool story, and I'm thank you for asking that. The question was, how did we get the money for the 91? It was hard. It took us 3 or 4 years to get the federal loan. We have a federal, it's called a TIFIA loan, to get the 91. It's very competitive, and the Obama administration did not want us to give us the money because I'm not being partisan about this, that administration, and to a large extent this one, has a negative view of projects that widen freeways and encourage automobile travel. And so it was very hard to explain to them what the issues on the 91 here were and why it was so essential that we clear that bottleneck. We were struggling, and so we went to Senator Dianne Feinstein and said, can you please help us? Eugene happened to have the senator here in town for an event at Miguel's. Eugene brought Senator Feinstein to Miguel's down in Dos Lagos for a nice breakfast. And he and then former supervisor Tom Mullen had the bright idea of, well, the senator's here. Her next event was at Fender?
Fender.
Yeah, so she was on her way to Fender to see the cool guitar manufacturing facility. And Eugene and Tom Mullen come up to me and say, hey, why don't, Aaron, you go in the back of the car with the senator on her drive to Fender, and you can explain to her as you're driving on the 91. So I gave my keys to either Eugene or Tom. Someone else drove my car. And the senator was fine with this. Her staff was okay. So I got in the back seat of the car. Senator Feinstein was in the front seat. It's like 10:30, maybe 10 in the morning. And this is what I loved about the senator. I was an intern. I started my career as an intern for her. She didn't remember that. But, as soon as we were driving out of Dos Lagos, she was asking rapid fire questions. What's this building? What did they make there? What is the community developing here? Why is this here? Why are there so many effing trucks here on the road? And so I'm trying to explain this all to the senator, and we get to the 91, we're going up the 15, and we're going on the big flyover. There was only one flyover at the time. It was to the west, northbound 15 to westbound. And as we get to the top, I swear this was not planned, as we get to the top, traffic stops. And we're sitting up there, and she's on her at the time BlackBerry, and she's clicking away, and she just looks up. She goes, why aren't we moving? I said, well, Senator, this is how it is every day. She goes, but it's 10:30.
10:30, yeah.
Why is this happening? I explained why it's happening. And then she goes, well, I'm gonna be late. Yes, Senator, we're gonna be late. She was mad. And so I said, this is what people here live with every day. This is why we're asking for these funds. And so she says, okay. She turns around, looks at me, and she says, I want you to write, do you have your phone? Yes. I want you to write an email to my staff right now, and this is what it needs to say, and he's gonna write a letter to the secretary, Ray LaHood, the secretary, and I'm gonna tell you what it's gonna say. So she starts dictating to me the letter that she's sending to Secretary LaHood, and so I'm sending an email to this staff person. I'm saying, I'm really sorry that I'm doing this to you right now, but your boss is telling me to send this to the secretary. And so and the letter started with, I am stuck on the 91 freeway. They need the money. We got the money. We got So it's one of the coolest stories. I still shake when I tell, but thank you, Eugene, for setting that up and for just having the political wherewithal to think that getting the senator stuck in traffic.
We had no idea it was going to work out.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Sir.
Any discussion these days about the Cahalco corridor and
Yeah.
doing anything there?
That's a county project. So the question's about the Cahalco corridor. Yes, the county has a project there to widen Cahalco and to straighten out some of the curves. It's in the environmental process. That alone is $1 billion+ project. So again, the dollars and the magnitude of these things is significant. So the traffic relief plan does include funding to do the Cahalco project. It's got to get through environmental though. We're trying.
Very local question. So two parts, and I'll have a second question if the first one's right. Does RCTC control the timing on the intersection of El Sobrante and
No. El Sobrante?
They say that. On El Sobrante.
Oh, that's a city. Yeah, so the question is about the signal timing at El Sobrante and Magnolia, where there's like 5 signals in 20 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, complain to the city about that.
It's the city and Caltrans. So, yeah, so it's the city and Caltrans. Can yeah, it's the city and Caltrans controls the ramp. So the signal at the ramp is theirs, and the other ones are the city.
Part of the problem is Caltrans has to flow, so the city has to fit it in, and that's the same thing with Ontario.
So I'm going to give you a solution, though. Yes, but I can't do it today. It's not my jurisdiction, but it's in the traffic relief plan. So, okay. So what we're doing in Temecula, you may have heard us talk about this. What we're doing in Temecula is called a Smart Freeway Project. What we're doing, it's a technology integration project where we are going to hook up the signals at the ramps and the meters. It's mostly for getting on the freeway, but we could do it in the reverse to get off. Putting sensors on the freeway so that it's actually like turning the freeway into an automated, intelligent thing that times the signals based on what the traffic is. And so we're doing this pilot project in Temecula on I-15 at Rancho California, Winchester, and Temecula Parkway. If it's successful, it's a 2-year pilot. If it's successful, we already have plans. We've already talked to the city of Corona about doing it here. We've talked to Beaumont about doing it out on the 10, so that we have signals that talk to each other. And within Corona, they have a very sophisticated traffic management system, but it's once you get to the Caltrans jurisdiction that cutoff happens, and so we want them to integrate. It's a good question.
One more over here. Saul?
What kind of input we have from the public for these projects, especially where they integrate with Caltrans or with freeway on-ramps, off-ramps, where the city actually also go out there, for example, Magnolia. How will the public give input, if at all?
Yeah, so if there's a project, it has to go through CEQA, and CEQA is the question is, how does the public give input to these projects? Our projects, city projects, have to go through a California Environmental Quality Act review, which includes public circulation and disclosure comment periods. So there's always an opportunity to comment on those projects.
I got one.
Yeah.
Aaron, in the past, we looked for, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but we look for legislation that we can support or oppose. And we, in the past, have issued letters of opposition on several pieces of legislation that impacted transportation in a way that hurt the business community. Can you talk a little bit about that whole philosophy of where we're going on that?
Yeah.
And more specifically, is there any legislation, that's where I'm kind of putting you on the spot now. Maybe
That's perfect.
you can get back to us.
Yeah.
Is there any legislation that we can weigh in for you as a chamber to support or oppose?
Yeah, AB 2535, write that down. It's by Bonta. And the question was, legislation the chamber can support or oppose to help transportation from a business standpoint. There have been a number of bills in the legislature recently that the chamber has been great about supporting RCTC on, mostly to oppose bills. So there have been a lot of pieces of legislation lately that disadvantage this region of California because the policy angle that the legislature and the governor is taking is that anything that increases the amount that people drive or anything that adds capacity to a highway, to a roadway, is bad and needs stopped or mitigated to such an expensive level that the project is infeasible. We have beat back several pieces of legislation that would kill projects, make it harder for us to get funding. AB 2535 is another one of those. It has to do with trade corridor funding for areas that have the air quality issues that this area has. It basically say we couldn't use state funds from a particular program to add to the freeway. So we will send you those bills.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got time for one more question? Marta?
This is a newbie question, because I'm barely learning about our CTC and everything that we do. About the toll roads.
Yeah.
Where does that money go? Is it just for maintenance, or does it go for other projects?
Thank you for asking.
And a second question, why is there no entrance in downtown Corona?
Thank you for asking both of those questions. The questions are, where does the express lanes money go? And why is there no entry and exit in the middle of the city?
I'll answer the second part.
Okay.
It seems like the toll roads are mostly for people going through Corona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And I've heard stories, but I want the.
Yeah. So let me take the first part of your question about where does the money go. The money, it's public money, comes to RCTC, and it does things in this order. So it pays for the debt that we incurred to build the projects in the first place. So we basically took out a huge mortgage to build those lanes and the interchanges in Corona and all of the improvements that went along with that. So we have to pay the mortgage back. Okay? So it goes to pay the debt service. Then it goes to pay for operations and maintenance of those lanes. So those lanes stay in good condition. They're monitored 24/7. We actually have a huge, we have a business here in Corona down off of Corporate Terrace Circle. We have 2 call centers that handle all the accounts. So it pays for the maintenance and operations of those lanes and all the technology. Then, if there is any surplus funds from the tolls left over, RCTC is required by law to reinvest those funds back into the 91 corridor for revenues that come from the 91. And same for the 15. Money has to go back into the 15 corridor. That can mean improvements to the freeway itself. It could mean improvements to, I don't know, El Sobrante and Magnolia. It could go to public transportation on those corridors. We have already used that money to build a lane from Green River to the 241. That was done with toll money. We used it to finish the express connector that just connected the 15 and the 91 that just got done. That's what we do with the money. It's all public money. There is no private profit. It's all your money. You want to talk about the Mid-City Access?
What did you hear?
Oh, I have not
Eugene. Whatever you told her, Eugene.
So RCTC had $50 million to add an entrance at Smith. And if you put your mind back, for those of you that have been here a while, do you remember how Ontario Avenue used to be every morning with all the cut-through traffic? We actually did studies. Ontario Avenue was 75 to 80% non-Corona traffic. So the Corona people could not travel on Ontario. Foothill was not finished yet. They would have decimated that entire area where Smith and the 91 is. All those businesses would have been destroyed. It would have added the interchange there. And who would have taken it? Most people didn't realize at that time how many homes were being built in Eastvale and how much traffic we had coming through Corridon and everywhere else. And so that traffic from Eastvale would have used that on-ramp. It wouldn't have been Corona people. So I don't know where they did with the $50 million.
Yeah, no, Eugene's right. It would have had huge right-of-way impacts, business impacts in downtown Corona, had we widened the freeway to do that.
I have a question about the toll lanes. So on the weekends, it's a beautiful day, we're finally getting out of Riverside to go to the beach, and the toll road is closed for cleaning.
Yeah.
Why can't they do that at night when nobody needs to use it?
Well, they do. Yeah, the question is about maintenance of the express lanes. Why does it happen during when it's not convenient? Yeah.
But they do it on the weekends, you can retire, you can go down there during the week.
Yeah, it is.
Kids are in school, and they're trying to get over, they can't get out of.
Yeah, they are routine maintenance closures. They happen typically on Sundays, and they are planned and they're on a cycle. They're on a regular cycle. Some of the work should be done in the day for the worker safety. We do as much as we can at night. We do as much as we can.
But in the toll road, when they close the whole thing down,
Yeah.
they don't need to worry about safety. There's no traffic going through the toll road because they close the whole thing down.
No, I understand.
So I don't understand why we can't do that at night.
We try, but
Work on it.
okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'll call you about it next time.
So it said one more question, and then she jumped in and did that. So, but it's only as Yolanda could. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and give a round of applause to Aaron. Thank you so much. And I know your schedule's tight, but I appreciate you making that commitment. I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff.
Thank you very much, Aaron. You really appreciate your honesty and transparency, and you've got a big job ahead of you. And we're hoping we can be a partner and help you where we can. So I do want to thank Waste Management again for sponsoring. We do have sponsorship opportunities for June and August. So if you know anybody that would like to sponsor our meeting, we would be grateful to have Robert or Anthony talk to them. Lily, do you want to say a word or two? No. Oh, she's not here. I'm sorry.
No, she's not. She just
Okay.
She's still in LA.
She's still in LA. Okay, thank you. Okay, one of the reasons we have had... I don't know who you can blame for the toll road, but it might be this guy in the corner on a scooter. Aaron and I fought some battles getting approval on that 91 expansion, but we got it through the legislature. We got bipartisan support. We got it to the governor's desk, and Governor Schwarzenegger signed it, which authorized that whole thing. So I will take the blame. Anyways, we could do a whole meeting on the ins and outs of how that bill got passed. Our committee is successful, mainly in part because of our consultant, who helps guide us through a variety of issues. Jeff Gibson owns a company called Occidental Communications Group. He has owned his company almost 35 years. He has been involved in many political campaigns. He has worked on transportation issues and housing issues and economic development issues. He was the author of Jessica's Law back in 2006. And I'd like him to give us a quick update on what he wants to give us a quick update on.
So since we're keeping with the transportation theme, I wanted to talk about a project that Aaron was involved in and talk about why rail investments are important for employers, and not just for moving workers, but for years and years and years at the federal level, the state level. We, as a group, when we would go to the state and the federal trips that we would take, in fact, we have one coming up this May, and all 4 of our legislative offices have agreed to participate. So we're going to be meeting with each of our members. Excuse me, get all choked up. But east of here in Paris, there is a huge project going in that's part of the Paris Valley line that will be utilizing it. That Home Depot has put in a regional lumber distribution center that will save 10 million truck trips. So one of the things that we talk about all the time here is goods movement and what happens at the ports to the west of us, and largely what happens to the east of us with logistics centers affects smart manufacturers here in Corona, because for the last 30 years, the city council has always focused on using this center, which is at the confluence of so many different transportation corridors, as a location for smart manufacturing as opposed to logistics. So we have logistics to the north, we have logistics to the east, into the west, and because of the location of those logistics centers, you can have value add smart manufacturers here. It's not an accident that you have Fender, that you have these locations. Doing that type of it, so when Aaron talks about, or RCTC talks about, or you hear all the talk about rail, and you may think to yourself, well, I don't use rail. You do use rail, because that's really where you're able to take at scale a huge number of truck trips off of the roads. And you are able to create much more efficient logistics centers that, speaking to the social justice issue, when you're talking about 10 million truck trips going through areas that are already impacted greatly by trucks, that is a big, big number. And so that's one of the things, RCTC up until last year was a major help in terms of getting the rail spur and handling all of those issues. And so that was a major, major piece of it. But it was an investment that we worked on, that Senator Roth worked on very specifically, and several other folks, including Congressman Calvert as well. But on to the action alert that you guys should have in front of you. As has been, we've talked about the state minimum wage, especially for restaurant workers working in restaurants that share branding with over 50 restaurants on a national basis, has gone up to $20. Currently, workers that are at minimum wage in the state of California have a 9.5% unemployment rate. That's 3 times the national average. I'll give you one moment to try and put the correlation together of increasing the minimum wage in the state of California by 100% over the last 4 years, and for those workers, and why they could have 3 times the unemployment rate. But that's something that's going on right now. We're going to be focused on that as well. The speaker is coming out with another bill to limit the use of logistics for buildings, for smart manufacturers, for retail centers with locations that are over 100,000 square feet. So we're very focused on that as well, because we've beaten that 2 years in a row. And clearly I'm personally very involved in that negotiation. So in any case, we have bills coming up as the state legislature has started its committee hearings. We are going to be up in Sacramento at the end of next month, and have, like I said, we have a full slate of meetings. We're going to be meeting in the state legislature like we did last year in a dedicated meeting room to go over that. So very happy to have you contact the staff or go through that. And then we also have our DC trip set for September 20th through the 26th. We'll be staying at the Mayflower again. So happy to provide that information as well. But answer any questions that you may have.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Jet Benavidez, again, here representing Congressman Ken Calvert. I believe the last time that we were here, we were talking a lot about the appropriations process, keeping the government open, and specifically the community project funding that will be coming here to the 41st District. Well, I'm happy to report that a little later last month, the Consolidated Appropriations Act was passed with a bipartisan majority of the House, and Congressman Calvert was able to secure roughly $45 million in local infrastructure, water projects, all throughout the 41st Congressional District. Some of the projects that you may, yes, it's good. It's very, very good. It was a very big bipartisan effort on behalf of the congressman, working with colleagues across the aisle to make sure that that funding was brought here to the district. So some of the projects that you may be familiar with, specifically related to RCTC, is the $5 million for the Coachella Valley Rail Project, as well as $4 million for the Ontario Avenue Interstate 15 Corridor Enhancement Project, and also $3 million for the Recycled Water Booster Station and Reservoir project, which was requested by the city of Norco. So we're very happy to see that that funding was finally secured for the 41st district. We're very, very excited for the future, for the next fiscal cycle, to have more resources be brought here from DC to the 41st district. So excited, hoping for a positive outcome on all those things, but thank you so much, everybody.
Howdy, folks. My name is Braxton Diffentorum. I'm a field representative for State Senator Kelly Ciardo in the 32nd District. So we have a couple of bill updates for you. Please bear with me. I'll try to go as fast as possible. SB 911, which is the Survivors Benefits Tax Exemption Bill, passed on April 8th from the Senate Military and Veterans Affairs Committee, and has been referred to the Appropriations Committee in the Senate with the recommendation for the consent calendar. I'm going to be mentioning that a couple of times, the consent calendar, just to go over it in case folks are unfamiliar. When a bill has that recommendation, usually that entails that the next time that the bill is brought up on for a vote in a committee or on the floor, it's generally viewed with that consent label that all the votes will be going as a yes vote, ensuring that the bill essentially is a guarantee pass. And this is all with large quotes because everything can also change. But just to recap, Senate Bill 911, Senate Survivors Benefits Tax Exemption Bill, passed out of the Senate Military Veterans Committee and was sent to the Appropriations Committee on the consent calendar recommendation. The same happened with Senate Bill 916 and the Calvet fee waiver bill. The same also happened with Senate Bill 920 and the Purple Star School Codification Bill. The Senate Bill 955 Infrastructure Gap Funding Bill has been sent to the Appropriations Committee, but that specifically does not have the consent calendar recommendation. A couple more updates. Senate Bill 1034, the State of Emergency Public Record Extension Bill, has also passed to the Appropriations Committee with that consent calendar recommendation. Senate Bill 1044, which is the bingo law tied to inflation bill, also passed with a consent calendar recommendation for the going to the Appropriations Committee. This is a slight change here. Senate Bill 1122, Law Enforcement Degree Requirement Bill, did pass with consent calendar recommendation from the Appropriations Committee and also passed the Senate floor. So it is now actually into the Assembly side of the legislature where it's going to go through further committees and votes. The Senate Bill 1219 Prostitution Loitering Bill failed to get out of the Senate Public Safety Committee, so that is currently sort of dead in the water. There may be some changes that happen down the line, but for all intents and purposes, that is currently a dead bill. Then the last one I have an update for is Senate Bill 1096, the Honest Mail Transparency Bill, which also had that consent calendar recommendation for the Appropriations Committee, so it passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Sorry for that long list of updates. There will be more to come in the months to come, so thank you very much for listening in, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Casey Deaver, and I'm here on behalf of Assemblyman Bill Saley's office. And a couple of quick things I just want to go over with you. And one of them I'm sure you've heard me talk about it before, but since Aaron is here today, I thought I'd bring it up again. We were able to, the Assemblyman at the end of last year, we were able to get a $14 million extra lane project right here on the 15th freeway that we were excited to be a part of with Caltrans. It was a lot of work. We're working with the city of Corona, West Beach. It was a big thing. RCTC kind of helped us along the way. So we're super excited for that. Obviously, transportation and traffic is a big deal while I was here. So the other thing I kind of wanted to go over really briefly as well is another bill that we have kind of dealing with transportation as well, AB 2963. So right now, for whatever reason, if you have a truck of any kind, it's considered a commercial vehicle, whether you use it for commercial purposes or not. So there's some sort of fee, there's a fee that is added to it. And it adds anywhere from $80 to $300 a year for those individuals. So this would get rid of that if you're not using it for that commercial purpose, which obviously most people especially don't use it for that if you just have a normal pickup truck just because you want it. So hopefully we'll be able to save you some money on that. So I think would be a crucial bill. Another thing that I kind of wanted to go over that's kind of a big deal right now is obviously the budget. Right now, we're still waiting for the May governor's revised budget, because obviously right now there's a huge discrepancy between what the governor's office is saying as well as what the legislative analyst's office is saying. Legislative analyst's office are saying around 73 billion, where the governor's office is only about 38. So there's a huge discrepancy. So we're actually on the budget committee. The assembly member is on the budget committee. So we're going to be a big part of those discussions and trying to get things moving forward and try to figure out realistic expectations about what needs to be done, because there obviously lots to be done with that deficit. Those are the only few things I kind of wanted to go over, so I appreciate your time and always enjoy being here in Corona.
Awesome.
Okay, hi, hello everyone. It appears I'm finally the last field rep to give your announcements today. I'm Lena Cardenas, field representative from the Office of Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes. And I only have a couple of announcements today, and I'm pleased to announce that AB 1887 has been signed into law by the governor. And what this does is allow these already eligible students to apply for financial aid by moving the deadline from April 2nd over to May 2nd. And this law was in response to the confusion from the new financial aid application, which some of you may have heard of. And so we're definitely pleased to be able to assist these students so that they can actually apply for funding and actually be able to attend, their colleges and universities without that stress. So that's definitely a victory that we are definitely pleased to be able to deliver. And speaking of taxes today, we are still referring folks over to the volunteer income tax assistance sites, in which individuals who earn less than 85K in 2023 could file their taxes for free. And so if any of y'all happen to know anyone who may benefit from this, feel free to connect with me or to refer them to our office, and I'd be happy to assist them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to turn it back over to the Honorable Jeff Miller to close out the meeting, make a few more announcements.
Thank you, Bobby. Just real quick, our next Good Morning Corona, which is the Eagle Glen 5 a.m. or whatever crazy time I can't get up for anymore. Yeah. If you have any interest in participating, see the staff. Our guest speaker is going to be our district attorney, Mike Hestron. And so next Thursday, not tomorrow, but next Thursday. With that, anybody have any issues, questions? If not, I am going to, see, this is what I got to deal with him.
You're ending 30 minutes ahead of schedule, so I'm proud of you.
Well, I'm going to bring Aaron back up to do more. No, just kidding. Just kidding. All right, meeting is adjourned. Go out, make some money, be safe, and we'll see you in June.